Hello and welcome to Radiant Freedom Digital Marketing. And today we'll be covering part two of how to build a WordPress website that converts. And joining me today from the Canadian marketing team is Odin Xavier.
Hey there, everyone, welcome. Hopefully you got some ideas in the last presentation on how to craft those headlines. Jason's going to be showing you how to implement that now into your WordPress site. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, no problem. And don't worry, we'll make sure we include links over to Odin's part of the video, and I highly encourage you to watch that, because he covers some very great stuff on how to create conversions. He's really an expert on conversions, so I highly recommend you check that out. And for this video, what we'll be talking about is actually using an example of a moving company to use a headline we've crafted and show you how to actually implement that headline into WordPress. Then we'll be taking a look in WordPress. So right now we're starting on the dashboard. So to implement your headline, first we'll be going to all pages. And what we're wanting to do is open up our home page, which currently is blank. So I've got a few pages set up here for this demo. As we work through it, we'll be working on how to fill all these things up. So what I'm doing right now is going into home page and edit, and it's got a moment to load up. So now our home page, first right now it has the page title home. We don't want to change that, but we have a headline ready to implement, which is last year over 4,000 complaints and lawsuits were filed against moving companies in Canada. Now that definitely fits in with the real grabber stuff that Odin was talking about in his portion of the video. So what I'm going to do is just copy this and paste this into WordPress. Now I don't want that bullet point there, but right now we have here isn't really a headline, it's just normal text. It's a paragraph. If you look under here, this says paragraph in this part here. This is the part we'll be using to actually change this into a headline. This is the first and most basic way that you can craft a headline. So what I'm going to do is click this down arrow after selecting. So first thing I'm going to do is select the entire bit of text, click this down arrow, and then there's different headline options. And each of these will be kind of in a hierarchy. So heading 1 is more important than heading 2. And they'll generally be bigger the higher up you go. So in this case, we want this to be our major headline. So we're going to check it heading 1. So now it's just made this much bigger. Plus also in searches, this will be given a higher priority in terms of how your website ranks. So that's the first step here. So what we'll do is just hit update to save what we just did. And now I'm going to click preview changes, and that's going to open up a preview of our basic page with the headline in place. Okay, so there you go. So now you see you have a basic headline, just black text on a white background right now. But of course, that can be still effective. Of course, there's a lot more ways that you can implement a headline. So, and what I did is actually, just before we started recording this video, I actually saved a image here that we'll be looking at, because another way you can do a headline is by embedding your headline into an image. And we'll be going through just briefly how you can do.
So the idea is you can change your headlines and test and measure your headlines and make it really a dynamic website.
But here's the image we had. I actually did this search called moving truck and found this image that looked like it was a row of trucks. So that looked like a good image. So what I'm going to do is so we have the image loader up here. So what I was going to do is click Save Image As. Okay, so that's what happens. That's some weird stuff at the end. All right, so what we're going to do is change it to a .jpg file. So we have the proper JPEG of it. And there we go. Right, so we have our image here. So what I'm going to do is right click on this to open it up in GIMP. Then what I'm going to do is show you how you can insert your headline into this image in GIMP. And then the third way, then there's a third way you can also combine images with headlines as well, which I'll be showing you in a moment. But for now, what we'll do is just give a moment here for GIMP to open up. Now, fortunately, you people won't have to wait for any of this loading stuff. We'll just skip ahead. All right, so we're back and the image is now loaded up into GIMP. So right now, of course, this is a really huge image, but we'll start out working on first getting the image down to the size and shape that we want. So first step is we can have a little bit of part of this image we don't really need. So we can crop that out. So what we want to do is make this image fairly short. So what I'm going to do is maybe crop it down to about like so. That should be about right. So now I'm going to go over to image and select crop to selection. So now what we've done is just made this image a short, wide image, which is what you want for a headline, because you don't want it to take up too much of the screen and push too much of your content, down off the screen. So now what I'm going to do is go over to the text tool in GIMP, and I'm going to just put this down roughly centered. And now what I'm going to do is go back over to our document with all our notes in it. I'm going to copy and paste our headline into here. All right, so first thing you notice is it's really small and it's kind of going off the edge. So, whoops, that's a problem, right? But don't worry, we'll be working on that first. Whoops, I'm gonna grab a hold of that. Okay, I'm getting the wrong thing here, but what I'm doing is using this move tool. I might have to zoom in a little bit, just pushing the plus key so that I can get it over top of some of the actual text. There we go. So now I'm going to zoom out. And what I'm going to do is actually use the arrow keys. So I don't really want to move this up or down. I just want to move this left and right to get it properly positioned. That's the first step. I want to get it sort of roughly centered on this section here for now. So now that we've got that, I'm going to go back over to my text tool, and I'm going to select the whole thing. So now first thing is, the font is sans, which is fine. That's perfectly good font for using on the internet. So what we're going to do though is make this bigger, because right now it's only 18 and that's too small. So let's go way up to a size 50, because that's better, but of course it's now starting to overflow our image. So let's split this up across multiple lines. There we go. Now it's looking better. Of course now it's no longer centered, but we can fix that. Just move it up and over a bit, so we're back roughly in the middle. Of course, now you also may have noticed though that because this image has some areas that are dark and some areas that are light, we're losing our headline into the background, and it's still not really quite centered the way we want. So it's going to go back into our text editing tool, and I'm going to go over to our panel over on the left-hand side, and over in this section here it says Justify. What we're going to want to do is select Centered. So now all the text is properly centered the way you want. Of course, you're still having issues with the color. So, Odin, what do you think would be a good color for this headline?
I think that you're going to want to go with something that contrasts against the white and the blue. So let's try a red would really, really stick out.
Yeah, so here we go. So we'll go with, let's try selecting the thing. And
that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a headline that sticks out so it gets people's attention.
Now it's going to deselect it. So it's actually better, but still not quite as good as we'd like. Now, of course, we can open this up and select bold. And of course, now we need to recenter it a little bit again. That's maybe text a little bit, stick out a little bit better, but
maybe try green. Maybe try.
Yeah. No, we could
maybe try green because the red is still blending.
Now we could play around with a bunch of different colors, but the thing is that we have a mixture of dark and light background, so you're going to find it's going to be very hard to find the perfect color that's going to contrast well against all these different backgrounds. So what to do? What to do? Well, fortunately in GIMP, what we can do is go in Layer, New Layer, and what we'll do is shrink this layer down. Actually, I'm going to cancel this for me, because what we want to do is take a look at what's the size of this layer that we have our text in, and we're going to want to make our new layer roughly the same size. I'm going to go here and select Scale Layer, so This layer is about 1035 by 174. So that's going to be roughly the size we're going to want for this. So I'm going to go back into layer, select new layer, and I'm going to go 1035. Sorry, what was it? Let's go with 175. It should be close enough. Now I'm going to hit OK. Also, you want to make sure this thing here is selected transparency, because that's going to be important. Now, of course, our new layer just showed up here now. For the purpose of positioning, I'm just going to make it white for now. So I'm going to use this fill feature. I'm just going to fill it in completely white. And it's right now covering up our headline. Don't worry about that. We'll be fixing that up in a moment. All right, so now our headline is completely covered over by it. Now, what we're going to be doing actually with this, because there's some really cool things you can do here, is we'll actually be going back into our fill tool here. And what we want to do is over here under opacity, I'm going to drop this down to roughly about 50%. And now what I'm going to do is actually make sure I select this whole thing, delete the background originally had in here. Now I'm just going to just fill over top of it. Now we have a semi-transparent background, so that's going to help us to guarantee that we have a consistent background. If it's still a little bit too faded, we can darken it. But you notice it's starting to fade the text out a little bit. And before, when we were positioning it, it was blocking the text. That's because in GIMP, it works in layers. And the closer to the top layer is, the more in front it's going to be. So this layer here, which is it's going to call this our transparent BG layer. You notice it's right now at the front. It's not really what we want. What we want is this layer with our text in it to be at the front. So what you can do is click on that and click this little up arrow, or just click on it and drag it. So we've moved our text into the front. So now it's showing up nice and bright and clear in red. And red is actually a really good color for the headlines. It's something that stimulates action in people. Now we have that kind of transparent white in behind it, so that way it's keeping the background a little more consistent. So at this point, what we want to do is go and click Save As. And then what we'll want to do is save this as, call this image headline. And this is going to save it as a GIMP file, so it's .xcf, which is the format that GIMP uses. So it's not what we're going to be able to use on the website, but the reason we want to do that is so that way we preserve our layers, so if that way if something doesn't work out later on, we can come back and edit it, or you want to try a different headline or change anything around, you can do it more easily than if we save it. The next step is where we want to then do what's called, under File, it's called Export. And in this case, I want to do is export it as a JPG file, because I want to keep the file size as small as possible. So we got headline.jpg. Now I'm clicking export. And don't need to worry about any of those options there. And don't really ever change those. That's something that's, just let a graphic designer worry about that stuff. So now we have our headline.jpg. So here it is. So this is now ready for us to upload to WordPress. So what we're going to do is now head back to our WordPress site. And here we go. So now this is our preview. So I'm going to go back into here. And what I'll do is just delete this old version. What I'm going to do is click Add Media. And go to Upload Files. Now there's two ways you can do it. You can either do Select Files, or you can go over to the folder we're working from and just drag the image over. Now, in this case, it's quicker to just drag it over because I already have the folder that we want opened. So now this file is uploading, and here's the area when you're dealing with image headlines where people often make their mistake. The first one is not getting the right contrast between text and background, which we already showed you how to deal with that by inserting a transparent layer in between the two. The second is, once the image is finished uploading, is they'll just leave the image as is. There's two problems with that. Number one, is search engines like Google, Yahoo, Bing, they can't read the text in the image. It's just all pixels to them. So there's, okay, so we got an error here. So try this again. All right, so here we have our image with the headline in it. Now, right now, the title is just headline. I'm not too worried about that, but down here, there's an area here called alt text. And what this is that is our way that we can now attach the text from our headline. So I'm just going to copy that again and paste it into here. Now, this attaches the text of our headline to the image in a way that the search engines can actually read that, so that they'll still get this text and know what the image is about, so that it can still help benefit you with your searches, while at the same time the visible part will benefit humans that are looking at it. Of course, the second reason why you want to put this alt text in is what happens is if your image doesn't load. That means your whole headline didn't load. But with this alt text there, if the image doesn't load, this will load in its place. Which is also important if you're wanting to make sure that people that are vision impaired can access your site, because you want to make sure it's maximum accessibility. Then they'll be using a screen reader, and that can't read images. So by putting this alt text in there, that makes sure that they can still get something from the image, which is your headline, which is what you want. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, it's going to actually scale it down to large size. Alignment, we're going to want that to be centered, and hit insert into page. There we go. And now what we're going to do is hit update. And preview changes. And now the new version of our site is going to load up in here. Now this is just one way you can insert your image headline into here. So now we have our headline with a cool image that helps make it attract attention even more. As the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So that now helps with getting more people onto here. So these are two different ways that you can incorporate a headline into your website, correctly. So myself and Odin will be back with more marketing and WordPress tips with you in the future. And in the meanwhile, the link back to Odin's video where he talks about how to craft headlines and how to research what would be the best headlines will be showing up on the screen shortly. And in the meanwhile, remember, you're awesome. So shine your awesomeness on the world. And it's been great talking to you, and bye for now.